Good morning. We welcome you to this week's edition of Landscape Smart, brought to you by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. And joining us in the studio, and I won't use inimitable this week, it's the one and only Rod Rademann.
We won't use that, or we will use that?
I didn't. I used it last week. I don't want to abuse one word.
All right, well, that's good.
Okay, I could say the wonderful Ron.
That's good enough.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Master Gardener Patty is with us. Good morning, Patty.
Good morning.
And you brought a guest back.
Sure, our guest from a couple of weeks ago is back this week, Luke Roffers from Roffers Landscape. We're going to talk to him a little bit about his business and how he buys virtually all his products at Rademann's.
Including 8.
Including 8.
What we talked about before we went on the air.
Yeah, the insecticide 8. Jerry's asking us questions. And I said, Jerry, these are great questions on the air, not off the air. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But anyway, again, Luke Roffers from Roffers Landscape. You want to just kind of give us a little...
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me again.
Welcome back.
Thank
We
you.
didn't scare you off the first time.
Not completely. It's getting better as we go.
Absolutely. It always does.
Yeah, well, the first couple times I did it too, you're a little intimidated, but, it comes more natural every minute, same thing, So anyway, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about your business, Luke, and how you got started, what you like to do, what you like to do best, and then if we get calls coming in, then we'll interrupt.
Perfect. So I started the business about 11 years ago while I was going to school to be a firefighter, paramedic.
There's a change.
Yep.
Well, you're helping people the same, just a little bit, not quite an emergency situation, though.
Yeah, a little bit more at your
Sometimes
own, your
it can
own
be an
pace.
emergency. Some people think it's an emergency with their problems, but
Yeah, so I was kind of doing it on the side, just kind of doing any odd jobs that I could get people to allow me to do. Being 21 years old, it's a little hard when you show up to an estimate and they're like,
I got grandkids.
does your dad
age.
own this?
Yeah.
yeah.
So a lot of it started out as like cutting grass and trimming shrubs.
By the way, you just gave away your age.
I did.
Uh-huh.
My math was right too.
Uh-huh.
But then it slowly started to get more and more, and we started to figure out some of our specialties of what we got good at, I should say. Like patios, retaining walls, and then your general landscaping around the house. And starting out, I'd say one of the most common things that we ended up doing was coming to people's houses and completely tearing everything out around their house because all the grade had switched from a positive pitch to a negative pitch, and half the time they were getting water in the basement. Other times they just knew it was going to be happening soon, so we would come.
Well, let's just digress on that just a little bit, Luke. For those of us that have an eye for that, you have to be super careful. If your house was built 15, 20 years ago, and you get that settling around your house, and all of a sudden it's a reverse pitch. So your downspouts, instead of running out past your plant beds around your house and running out into your yard, it's backtracking up against your basement walls. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, it just, it makes the problem worse. And, some of these projects around the house, pay for themselves, because if you can fix that reverse pitch, Luke can go in there at this point in time, pull out sometimes you can salvage a lot of the plants, save the plants. We actually help them with, transplanting some things on job sites like that. Then you go back in and you refill it around the house so that you're getting 2 or 3 or 4 inches of pitch from, you kind of build it back up to the bottom of your siding and then pitch it out over the other thing too is if you have like put that curb edging in, you have to build it up inside that so you're not trapping the water. But, you know, these are the kind of projects that Luke is, you know, experienced and good at. And, you know, instead of spending $10,000 or $15,000 on, you know, fixing your basement walls, you're going to spend maybe $4,000 or $5,000, depending on the size of the house and with the magnitude of the work. But at least you're going to spend the $4,000 or $5,000 after you repair the basement walls if you don't do it ahead of needing it. So, you know, and then you've got a brand new landscape that's good for another 20 years around your house. So you want to elaborate a little bit more on that thought, Luke?
Yeah, it's just kind of the sooner you realize that stuff started settling too, the easier it is to address it, because the smallest bit of negative pitch starts sending more and more water there, and once it starts, it progresses kind of rapidly.
The older homes with the block walls in the basement are the ones that.
Well,
and Wisconsin is a bad state kind of for it because of all the freeze and thaws over the winter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your basement, everything's warm inside, the ground's frozen outside, so it's like kind of where they meet.
Right. It's exactly where they
leak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it seems, you know, most of the houses that were built around in the, you know, let's just say in the early 2000s,
Yep.
you know, it's around when they're
Their
around,
landscaping's expiring right now.
right, their landscaping is expiring. I mean, mine, even after about 20 years, then I pulled all my decorative stone out, refilled in around the foundation to get positive pitch. And sometimes you don't even have to pull out the shrubs. You just, if your shrubs were planted, you know, 3 feet out from your foundation, you probably don't have to redo the shrubs. You just have to pull the decorative stone back and refill around the foundation so that you can, you know, and then put the fabric down and touch up a little more decorative stone.
Yeah, and
So-
you do have to make sure you take the decorative stone out. Sometimes people just want to add more decorative stone until it looks like it's pitched away from the house. But then that's essentially just having a French drain right up against your house.
That's the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
The water still collects under the stone.
Yeah, and if anybody's interested in checking out all these different types of stuff, we do the patios, retaining walls, landscape around the house. You can check out our website, rooferslandscaping.com.
Spell it.
It is ROFFERS landscaping.com. It's actually Roffers.
Rockers, yeah. That's why I asked you to spell it, so
Yeah.
people knew where to look. Alrighty, we shall take our first break.
Yeah, time for a little break. Rademann's again Saturday morning, so we're open until noon, and you know you're welcome to stop on out, take a look, meet with the gang out there, just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, and then exit off of County B to the east. We're about a quarter mile down on the left-hand side. Open till noon today, Monday through Friday till 4:30.
KFIZ News Time 8:23. We are back. This is Landscape Smart, brought to you by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I should mention the lines are open for you. If you have any questions, give us a holler, 923-1450, 1-888-900-1450. If you're bashful, you can do it via email, kfizstudio@gmail.com. That will get the question to our computer. I can't say in exactly a momentary fashion. Sometimes it seems to take a few minutes. That's why if you're going to email a question, do it early in the show, because if you do it at 8:58, we may not see the email until after the show is done. Good morning, you're on the air.
Thank you very much for taking my call. We've got a hanging basket of petunias, and it looked like it might have been dying off because it didn't get enough water, but on closer exam, it's got white fuzzies all over it. What the heck is that? I thought it might have been cottonwood that got stuck, but it's not. The whole plant's got white fuzz on it.
Well, it's either like a fungus, or it could be like a mealybug, a bug. Is it just a little bit thin layer of whiteness on the leaves?
Yeah, just a little bit of thin, and I
Oh.
haven't seen any bugs, so I have.
Okay.
But sometimes those real, like a mealy bug or some of those are, or even they're so small, but they still.
Yeah. They look like a little.
My guess would be it's an insect issue.
If the whole leaf is covered with a white fuzz, it's going to be the fungus. So,
Okay. Yeah, the whole plant's covered with it.
oh well, it's probably not going to break out of that. That's hard. Once the plant gets that, you can spray, but the time to spray for fungus is before it happens. So,
Okay.
seeing that people can't tell when it's going to happen for sure. So, and you must have a.
Is it shady? Is it kind of in a
Yeah, it must
shadier
be shady.
area?
No, it's in the sun.
Does it get morning sun?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it must have gotten a lot of wetness at some
But
points.
it's been pretty cool and pretty damp. You know,
Yeah.
we haven't had we haven't had a lot of June and July weather here yet. It's been a lot more April and May weather.
Some of that
Yeah,
can
it's
form
the
in the
only one.
greenhouse. Some of that can form in the greenhouse.
Right.
And you don't see
Okay.
it. And when you get cool, wet evenings, it spreads. So we've had a
Okay.
lot of that.
I would maybe just try like more of a 3-in-1 on it, more like a rose
You could
something,
try
because that would have some,
insecticide.
insecticide, miticide, and the fungicide in it also. And
Okay.
if like out at Rademann's, they do have some like small spray bottles. Really, that's all you would really need. I wouldn't buy a crank up my,
Yeah.
and quite frankly, or if you're local, it's not that big of a deal if you want to run to Hensey's or Stewart's or one of the other local garden berry patch, depending on where you're at. So
I would cut it back. If you're going to spray it with something, I would cut it back. And then
Cut it-
the new
okay.
growth could come out healed,
Fresh.
healed after you give it a dose of that.
Okay. I'll give it a try then. Thanks.
all right, yeah.
All right.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you. 923-1450. Lines are open for you now if you got a question. And again, kfizstudio@gmail.com will work as well.
I was just going to say too, Jerry, keep in mind for anybody that's tuning in late, you can always catch up and watch last week's show or today's show on KFIZ On Demand, or otherwise we're also on YouTube. You could see Luke's smiling face on YouTube. Just search for Landscape Smart 25. I'm not sure what episode this is, but anyway, on YouTube or KFIZ On Demand.
All right, let's hit the phones again. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, I just wondered if I bought some Tordon for trees, but can I use that on burdocks or stinging nettle?
Well, you could. What I would do in that case is like cut it off first, and then you could spot spray like the big stems, that are left. That would work better. Patty, do you have something to add to that?
That's what I've done I've done that with even smaller trees. I just slice them and then paint the Tordon right on the stump, and
Oh,
it never
yeah.
comes back.
Or you could even take like the Tordon and mix it with a little water and put it in like an old used Windex bottle is what I have in my garage,
Oh, okay.
and just mix a little bit in it, and then you just spot spray, you just trigger spray the spots. It's best to kind of have a pruning shears in one hand or a loppers in one hand, and then the spray bottle with you, and make the cut and spray and make the cut.
Yep.
Make 2 or 3 or 4 cuts and spray 2 or 3 or 4 cuts and just work your way through it. But yeah, that'll work good on the Tordon. Will definitely work, and you need something. If you just spray a Weed Be Gone product on Canada thistles or burdocks, you're not going to knock them out. You'll slow them down a little bit. But you're not going to knock them out.
Well, is there something specifically for like burdock where you can spray it on the leaf?
Well,
Yeah, but that's
it
a
might
lot
be
of
too
spraying.
late already.
They're just such a big plant.
Yeah, they're pretty big. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit. You're kind of too late.
You'd be saving yourself some time by cutting all that off.
Yeah, because if you would have 3 weeks ago when the burdock were just coming up, then the chickweed killer that is available out at Rademann's would work. But I think now if you try that, they're up pretty far already and they're pretty well established. So I think you're going to end up having to cut them off first before it'll work, and then you could either use the Tordon or chickweed killer is a little more economical. So that would work too. But I think if you're trying to, and it's good to get them. If you get them now, at least you'll have half as many or 1/10 as many next year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for the information.
Alright.
And we just love the show. Thank
And
you.
we appreciate people like you who call in. Thanks again.
Okay.
Have a good day. 923-1450, lines are open for you. And again, the email, kfizstudio@gmail.com.
So, Luke, tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you guys take care of at Roffers Landscaping.
All right, so we have a maintenance division. We cut grass, trim bushes, install mulch, pretty much taking care of all your existing landscaping at your house.
And also I know you picked up some plants from our nursery division earlier.
Yeah, so
this week
we have two different crews. We have like a hardscape landscape install crew and then a maintenance crew. And our landscaping crew we do a lot of like package deal type things where we'll come in and put the retaining wall in, the patio in, the landscaping, plant the yard, and pour the driveway too or something. That way customers dealing with one person come in and do it all. I go over by Ron, tell him I need 100 different plants.
Well, Luke does a lot of work with like natural stone, and some contractors will not touch natural stone because you have to have
It's frustrating.
but you have to have an eye for it, and it takes the block. And Rademann sells a lot of unilock products. The simpler block walls, and if you have to have an eye and a feel for doing natural stone and making it look natural, not making it look like every project's the same. And so at Rademann's, Luke does both. I mean, he'll pick up and
I would say we use a lot more of like the engineered blocks, the unilocks and Versalocks and stuff for like seat walls and stuff. I like unilock a lot for anything that's kind of structural.
right.
It's a pin together system too, so it kind of has like a little more support.
Artie, we got a caller. Good morning. You are on the air.
Hey, good morning, Ron. See, I've got these spruce trees. They're about 20 years old, and they got good new growth again this spring. But inside, there's so much dead branch, there might be green, maybe like the last 2 feet, but then the inside of these branches, is that normal?
Well, it's a it's a fungus that basically is attacking. Funguses thrive best where they're not getting enough air circulation, they're not getting enough sunlight, and especially again, now this is turning out to be the kind of spring that that funguses thrive on. If we get 2 or 3 weeks of 85-degree weather and sun and windy, funguses don't like that. But this this year so far in late May and June, it's turning out to be a fungus year. And that's what's going on there. And of course, the new growth isn't susceptible to that fungus because it's new, but the older growth is. So what you want to do is get on your horse and run out to Rademann's and pick up a fungicide. And we have it available in a couple of different forms out there. If you're within hose distance, are these trees fairly close to your house or further out, way out, or?
Yeah, they're within 100 feet of my house here, right?
Okay, then I like to use, out at Rademann's, they have a fungicide that's fertilome fungicide that's, you hook on the end of a garden hose, and it'll spray up about 15, 20 feet, and that you don't have to get the tips or the top, because if you look at your trees, they're pretty good up on top more than likely because they get more sun up there. There is better air circulation. It's worse from the bottom on up. And if you spray them, today would be a perfect day. It's not going to, as we get along here in the week, there's chances of rain every day. So today or tomorrow is going to be better than Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. And the quicker you can get that fungicide on right now, the better, and then wait about 10 days or 14 days, and the end of June, give them another shot, and that'll be good enough for this year. Now, the dead branches that are dead, you could, those could come out, but if it's just the inside branches, you're catching this at an early enough stage where you can reverse the process. So if you do a couple sprayings right now, one, let's just say this weekend and one towards the end of June, and then put it back on your shelf in your garage or in the basement, and then do it again next year, and then get a little bit earlier start on it. Start already, before Memorial Day, and then you'll get a second application in the first part of June, and your third application the end of June, just like we are right now. And you'll reverse it. They won't, any branch that's dead will not produce more new growth, but at least you'll head it off at the pass as far as the future ones.
Yeah,
future.
it's already dead.
Yeah, if it's dead, it's dead. Yeah.
Dead is dead. Okay. You mentioned earlier I should get on my horse and get out to Rademann's. I don't have a horse.
Well, you have to, do the best you can. Huh?
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Ron. That's good advice.
All right. Thanks for the call. And it's a very timely question. If I had 2 fish dinner tickets to give you, I would. But
next year's a long way away.
Next year's a long ways away. So next year when you call in June and tell me how it's doing, or late May, I'll give you a couple fish dinner tickets.
Sounds good, Ron. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks for the call.
We got an email question in as well from Maureen, and basically it says, my perennial patch of black-eyed Susans and coneflowers are infected with something. The leaves are turning brown and drying up. There are tiny holes in the leaves. This is an established bed. I did spray with an insecticide spray heavy once, but I have not seen a change. What do you think it is? And Maureen's the address, but it came from Bill.
It might very likely be another fungus issue. If they're turning brown, that can be the after effect of the fungus after it's already destroyed the leaves. So I would cut those infected leaves out of there and then spray it with some fungicide and see what happens.
And again, at Rademann's, they have fungicides that are, some are, I still like those hose end sprayers. I hate to beat the horse to death on those, but you can just, it pre-mixes it for you. You hook it up on the end of your sprayer, at the end of your garden hose, click the trigger and go, and then when you're done, put it back on the shelf. And, that's it sounds to me, Patty, also like a fungus issue. And, it will help if you kind of, again, clean out those dead leaves, and again, it allows a little more sunlight in there. But yeah, I don't think it's, an insecticide on a fungus issue won't help.
No, it won't.
All right, let's grab another call before we go to break. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hi, I'm sorry, I might have just missed, and I'm repeating what was just on the radio, but I'm looking at fine line buckthorns, and they are having the orange fungus, I'm assuming. Did
Yeah.
you just address this?
No, we didn't.
Okay, so the best, because who thought to spray their fine lines, all their fine lines this year?
Yeah, I had one
What?
that did that. It's
Yeah, mine is the same way, Cindy. So you're not.
I know they all are.
they're
What do
susceptible.
we-
They're susceptible to that fungus, and I don't know if you can cure them out of it.
Mine just went away.
Yeah, you can't put anything on it to prevent now a lot of the branches dying out
Yeah.
I had it
throughout
on.
the season.
It was on 4 of them at my house that I got from Ron last year. It showed up right after. It was the only 4 he had that were infected, though. So that's why I took them. But
You
Well,
got
I don't know. Let's
it just
see.
went away. It didn't have it on it this year when it came
Really?
back. Yeah, and I planted 5 more or 6 more at my in-laws this spring, and it showed up on those ones too now.
Okay, maybe
Right.
it in correlation with the weather. Sometimes, some
Yeah.
years it comes, and
Is there
some
is
years
there
it
mulch
isn't.
around it? Does that affect like
I don't know if
all that extra moisture? And stuff?
it could, but this weather, I
Yeah.
think.
I know it's the weather, but so spraying them right now is just not really going to do anything, right?
It's not going to make it go away, no. And I think it's kind of
No, I know
it's
that.
kind of ran its course. I don't think it's going to get any worse, So, there really isn't anything to do at this stage. It's kind of like spraying apple scab after all the leaves are already on the ground. You just gotta, all we can do is hope for June and July weather here sooner rather than later. We need a nice 85, 90 degree week with no rain, and it's not going to be this coming week either. It's more of the more of the same. But I don't think it's going to get any worse, Cindy. So
Well, I noticed
I'm
like
just-
the next year there's more dead branching on those.
right,
lines.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and
I
I
read
don't-
where you should just pick off all the little orange leaves. I'm like, well, who's going to do that?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I
Okay,
was going to
thank
say is,
you.
maybe, some of these fungus issues, if it's 1 year, it's not bad. But if it's, I think the key there would be being proactive next year and making sure that it doesn't come back 2 years in a row. Because if it comes back 2 or 3 years in a row, then there will be an effect that, on them. Then the following year, you're going to start losing branches and leaves. So my advice would be to be sure to spray them already starting in late May next year, right as their leaves are emerging, and then wait 10 days and do it again. But, like I said, right now we'd be on the 3rd spraying right now. And so it's probably not going to really do much good anymore now.
Okay.
But thanks for
you.
calling, Cindy. I love it when you call in.
Yeah. So, I had another question, but I can't remember what it was. So.
Oh, if you do, call
right.
back.
You can call back. You
All
know the
righty.
number.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks for the
Bye-bye.
call.
A lot of Cindy does like light landscaping around the Fond du Lac area. That's just a lot of maintenance projects and things like that. So anyway, if you want to get a hold of Cindy, call out to Rademann's. They'll give you her number, but she's pretty busy. But she'll squeeze you in. Anyway, Rademann's, give them a call. They'll still set you up for a delivery yet this morning. 920-922-7612.
We are back. Landscape Smart, brought to you by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company, 923-1450. Lines are open. KFIZ studio at gmail.com. The trio of terrific folks are here. Luke, Ron, Patty, you got a question? Give them a shout.
Just kind of reminder once again, if you're tuning in late, you can catch up with us on YouTube. Just search Landscape Smart 25, and you can look up the last few episodes, shows, whatever we are here.
Performances.
Performances.
I like
Wow,
that one, yeah.
I don't know about that. But, and of course, I mean, you could even look back at last year's for whatever reason that would be. But don't follow the advice that we gave you last year in June, because it's
Different weather.
totally different this year. Last year we had a lot of the wetness was there, but we had the warmer temperatures too. So.
Got a caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I was given yesterday a peony plant that I have to plant now. It's full grown. I'm just wondering how I should plant it, or give it fertilizer, or what would be the
So
way to...
you're digging it out now, or you have it in a pot and you want to plant it?
Well, we just dug it out yesterday. We have
Ooh.
to plant it out today.
Well, you're going to have to do some very religious watering. It has to be planted at the exact same height it is, and it's
would
going
cut
to be
it
difficult.
back.
Yeah, you probably should.
I would just cut it right down to
Is it in flower?
No. They had it in a shade area.
Oh,
so
okay. So it couldn't flower. But I would cut some of the bigger, longer leaves back, and
Yeah, I would almost just shear it back to
Yeah.
about a 12-inch, leave
Yeah.
just a few leaves, and definitely no flowers. Cut it back so that there's like just one set of leaves on each stem.
yeah.
And
Okay.
because you're picking almost the exact worst time of
Yeah.
year to
It's
if you-
really bad.
We get the people that call in and say, when is the best time? This is the worst time.
This is the worst, yes.
Yeah, you probably couldn't have picked a worse time to do this.
But if you cut it back, put
But
it in.
peonies are tough.
They are. Put it at the same exact level it's growing. If you bury it too deep, it won't flower for at least 2 years. So just keep it at the same level it is. Put it in a nice sunny spot and water.
Yeah, water, every day or every other day. The good part is, we're in a damper period here yet. At least it's not July and cool. So, I think it'll be okay, but it won't be the best next year yet either, because it's. But you might, it might surprise us. Call us back in next year in June and let us know how it's doing.
If you do want to, you can fertilize it after a couple weeks or so. You could
Yeah,
give it some balanced fertilizer.
Yeah, more like a water soluble.
Yeah.
Out at Rademann's, we have like a Fertilome. I don't remember exactly what it is, 16 or 20 or something like that. I think it's 20. And then you just mix that up with a 5-gallon bucket or ice cream pail or something like that and water it in. But I would wait a couple weeks to do that yet. And with water soluble fertilizers, once it gets past the middle of July, you don't want to use it any more than that. So you'd probably just do that twice.
Yeah, like once and then 2 weeks later, and then you should be good for the season. And then hopefully next year you'll get some flowers, even maybe couple.
But mulching would definitely
In the
help
winter.
too.
Yeah.
A little
now.
mulch now to just help preserve the moisture and moderate the soil temperatures. We don't want it, the soil getting hot around it either.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna see how it turns out.
Yeah,
Okay.
be sure and call us back next year on Memorial Day and let us know how it's doing.
And then I have one other thing. We have raspberries, and the tops. They didn't fill out on the tops at all. I was wondering if anybody else had that. We just have they're real short, and there was no leaves at all on the top part of the raspberries.
That was probably because we had a kind of a crappy winter for some stuff, and
Yeah, I would say, some of the
cut it
roots
off.
may have just been damaged with the lack of snow cover and the dryness last fall. So then what happens, there just isn't enough energy in the root system to push them all the way to the top. So yeah, I would say, like Patty said, you might as well just trim those dead tips off and work with what you got. But that would be caused by a dry October, November, December.
Yep.
And then the roots were damaged once we got the freezing in the winter, especially without any snow cover.
Okay.
All right, good luck with your projects.
Sounds like I'll have my work cut out for me.
Yep.
All righty, take care. Thanks for the call. Take our final break.
Yeah, we squeeze it in. We're getting there. So anyway, Rademann's open today until noon, Monday through Friday till 4:30. And if you want to stop out, 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, just east on County B, a quarter mile right there at the crest of the hill, or otherwise you can still get a delivery today. Shoot them a call, 920-922-7612.
And we are back. The final few moments of this week's edition of Landscape Smart, brought to you by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. If you have a question, now would be a real good time to call 923-1450. Luke?
Yeah, kind of along with that raspberry bush question that we were just talking about. We've kind of noticed this year on some of the projects that we did last year, we lost 1 or 2 plants, shrubs on each of them. Not all of them, but more than normal. And it's mainly been like hydrangeas and weigelias. And the tops of them are dying. They're growing back, and proportionately, it's starting at the bottom again. And it's kind of weird. I asked Ron, I said, did something change? Are we doing something wrong all of a sudden? And he said, no. I said, is everybody noticing this? And
the key point is they weren't really lost. They're just affected. And so, if you had your twist and shout hydrangeas, or if you had, the weigelias, just trim that dead back and they'll come back up, because in most of these cases, 1/3 of the root system was damaged, half of the root system was damaged.
And that's like you said, without any snow cover. And really, we had a mild winter for the most part until it got cold. And with it being mild, it melted all the snow. And then when it got cold, it got really cold.
Yeah, and that's where, again, the root systems were damaged. So then there's just not enough energy to feed the whole plant that was there last year.
And put on top of that, we had a very dry fall. It was, if you had newly planted shrubs and trees, if you didn't water them until the ground froze, that also affected everything.
Well, and you got to remember that, even though plants are growing, you're not seeing them grow, their root systems are still there. So if they go into winter dry, if it was dry last year already, starting towards the end of August, it was wet in the spring, and there was a little bit of a false, when I called people up in September and told them to water, they go, "You got to be kidding. It's way too wet." I go, "Well, it was way too wet in April and May and June and July, but now it's September." And so then we went into, and winter can be pretty long because they're not going to get watered in December and January and February if we don't have any snow. And so if they were dry already in November, now they're dry in November, December, January, February, March,
Yeah.
So it's a 5-month, plants can't go 5 months without watering.
And people have a false sense that once it gets to the end of October, you're done watering, but
they
you're
shut
not.
the water off in the basement, and you pick up your hoses, and and things have changed over the last 25 years too.
We don't get frozen ground anymore, hardly.
Yeah, we used to be done at, by the time Thanksgiving rolled around, there was snow on the ground, and you were done for the year. And now it seems like, we're working right up until Christmas. It has changed. So you have to water an extra month each year, because we have an extra month of fall weather, really.
Right.
If we have that extra month of winter weather, if there's snow on the ground, well, don't worry about it. But if there is no snow and it hasn't been snowing, or snow can melt too, that helps.
Yeah.
If we're getting that in,
If
we're getting it.
we didn't get much.
So, anyway, want to thank Luke again for stopping by.
Yeah, anybody that's interested in getting any landscaping done around their house or patios, retaining walls, give us a call or check out our website, rofferslandscaping.com, ROFFERS landscaping.com, or all of our previous projects are on Facebook at Roofers Landscaping.
All right. Again, Rademann's open till noon. You can still get a delivery or stop on out 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, east on County B, a quarter mile.
Alrighty, our thanks to Luke, our thanks to Ron, our thanks to Patty, and especially our thanks to you for your questions and your emails. We'll be back next week. KFIZ Fond du Lac, it's 9 o'clock.